Now, the planet Earth becomes your drop zone. You are not limited to anywhere but planet Earth. My boss was actually, I won't mention his name, but was affiliated with Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
He is affiliated. I was pinned underneath a car underwater, and I had to take my knife out. About 2 days later, she phoned me and she says, Graham, we'd love to have you on board as an ambassador.
They are a brand that has been issued by the military for the SBS. I mean, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say. No, I can edit it out.
Did my commercial diving ticket. We were working out of the Holy Loch, our US Navy submarine base from the Cold War. If you can train in Scotland, you can train anywhere because the conditions are horrendous.
Yeah. Did I see Brian Wood and Jason Fox and Aldo Kane with your flag? Was that?
Yeah.
That was quite impressive. Good to finally meet.
The wonders of modern technology here.
We've been communicating over text. You're based in Ireland, right?
Yeah, I'm based up in Northern Ireland. Originally a native of Dublin, but I'm a bit of a nomad. I didn't endeavour to live anywhere other than on a yacht in the Bahamas at one point. But for the love of a woman, I end up here.
Oh, fantastic. You're the founder of the Wild Geese Explorers Club. And for those people who don't know what the Wild Geese Explorers Club is, could you explain it to us?
It's a nice story. I went to a 50th birthday party about 2 years ago with ex-guys that I'd served with. I hadn't seen each other in about 15 years. You'd left, done your own thing. You've moved on to higher pastures, some lower pastures. But I went to the birthday party. I turned up and it was great. I hadn't seen these guys in such a long time. Such a great evening. You know, we'd all got very older.
Yeah.
And when I was in the military, I used to be the mountain leader for the platoon. And I used to organize adventure training. And when we used to organize adventure training, they all complained. Like, oh, no, not another mountain. Can we just go get a beer? So I used to make them do it.
Yeah.
And so at the bar, I said, are you kidding me? All you ever did was complain when I did it. And so they were, no, please organize something. So a couple months later, one guy, his wife had took her life and she'd left him with 3 boys. They were very young. He doesn't live too far from me, but he became a recluse. My heart went out to him. So I said to him, tell you what, I says, let's start with a bushcraft morning. We packed our bags and he was like, what are we doing? I says, we're going to have coffee in the woods. So off we went. We had coffee, slung our hammocks, started doing old skills. He hadn't even opened his bag in years.
Yeah.
He had a great time. And he said to me, do you mind if we do this a couple of times a month? I says, every Sunday I'm here. And all we did was talk. Right? We sat there, we had coffee, dug up a pit, lit a fire, made some pancakes, and that was it. And he said to me, Graham, this was fantastic. So we did it again. He happened to tell one of the other guys. So the other guy says, can I come? I said, yeah, no problem. So we started a bit of a following on a Sunday morning. And then they said to me, can you start organizing more stuff? So we went to the mountains and it was 1, then it was 2, then they start talking. And then before you know it, we had a group of 5. So we set a goal that every 6 weeks we would do something adventurous. Each of us had different schedules. One guy was in Libya, close protection. One guy was offshore. One guy works for the fire brigade. It's just life. Yeah. When we turned up, they were just on a high and loving it. But the same jokes were there. And the camaraderie was there. It was just us 5 guys. But then last New Year's Eve day in 2023, I organized, let's do the highest mountain in Northern Ireland. It's high for us. And it's not an easy climb, especially in the winter. I says, let's bring in the new year with a little bit of suffering at the start. And then, you can enjoy yourself in the evening. So that was good. We turned up at 7 o'clock on that morning and it was blown a gale because Newcastle is right next to the sea. So it comes straight off the Irish Sea and goes straight up the side of the hill. And when I pulled up in the van, they were looking at me and they go, like, are we really doing this? And I said, yeah, it's important we do it. We've made the effort. And they were like, could we not just go for a beer? And I said, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. How are we going to go for a beer? So I said, tell you what, we'll just go to the tree line, see what the weather's like. So we went to the tree line, went up the saddle, and then we did the summit. And it was honking, absolutely honking. And at one point, they were on their hands and knees trying to get over the wall and around out of the wind. And when we stood there, I passed out a hip flask that we thought of rum for everyone. And everyone was laughing. And I just listened to them. Not one of them was bitching or moaning. They were just laughing. And we laughed all the way up. We laughed all the way down. When we got down into the car park, shook hands. And then I said, tell you what, we'll have 1 pint before we go. So we went into the pub next to the car park. We're sitting there. Just the elation of after a walk, something hard. And you're sitting there, your rosy red cheeks. And I just looked and listened to them all talking. And it just brought me back to the scene in the Wild Geese where they're interviewing the guys before they go to Africa. And I start laughing because each one of them was exactly like the characters in the film. Oh, yes, sir, I'm a better man than I was when I was 20. I can do this. I'm still fit to fight. And I just start laughing. They were like, what are you laughing at? Because I hadn't said a word at this point. I said, I have a great name for the club, for our group. And they were like, what? I says, we're going to call ourselves the Wild Geese Explorers Club. And they all broke down in tears laughing. And I explained to them what I just felt and the mood and the vibe from the group.
Yes.
And they all got it. And we shook hands and we wished each other a happy new year. And off we went. So when I went home that night, I sat down with a piece of paper and a pen and I started working on the logo. The initial patch, which was this one.
Mm-hmm.
This was done for the Ranger guys. And I took it to a fantastic guy, Go to Patches, Carl. Can't say enough good words about that man. The man's a gentleman, absolute gentleman. I explained to him what I was doing. And he said to me, leave it with me, Graham. And he came back and he made me the patch. So I got 10 patches made up. On the next adventure, when we got to the summit, I did a badging process, bit of fun. All the lads got a patch and they were loving this. They thought this was fantastic. I've been organising days out, even a coffee morning or just going to the woods. We have a coffee, we call it bushcraft coffee and pancakes. All it is we just get together and we talk. And we're in the woods. We take the odd photograph, but there's no texting. Oh, I'm just checking. Right, guys, it's us. You can do all that in the afternoon. And do you know what? It's like being in a time machine when you're together. Because you start off at 9 o'clock and all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock and you're like, we had such a good time through. So then I wrote a bit of a blog about it on one of my personal pages. This is a couple of months later, about how important it is that after you move on from your service or whatever, but also when you start to get into later years in life, you must not take your friendship for granted. It's something you need to work at.
Yes.
It needs to be a strength that you work on. Because I've seen in past experience, my father's in his 80s and he's no friends anymore. He's moved away, he's travelled, but he didn't keep in touch with anyone. He's just got my mother. And I see him, he is actually quite lonely. Even though he's got a big family, he's lonely because he's no friendship with close friends. And he's often said to me, I'm envious of you and your friends. He says, because I know that there's guys, if you phone them at 2 a.m. and said, look, I'm broke down here, someone will come and get you. So I wrote a bit of a blog about this, and it was an American guy who read it. He contacted me via personal message, and he said to me, man, he says, that brought a tear to my eye, what you said. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, that was amazing what you wrote. Could I have one of your patches? And I went, I only make 10. And they're not an easy thing to do or a cheap thing to do. So I said, let me see how I get on because I've got to hand out more patches to guys. So I sent him a patch and he sent me back a message. He goes, man, I absolutely love what you're doing. You've really struck a chord with me. He says, is there any possibility that you could create an international club? I was like, what? I never even visioned anything other than 6 or 7 guys involved in this club that I designed. Anyway, the American guy kept badgering me. He's ex-US Marine Recon. Charlie is his name. I call him Uncle Buck. Fantastic guy. So I said to him, yes, leave it with me. I sat down and I started working on the international patch. And I said to myself, the existing one means quite a lot to me.
Yes.
But this one has to mean something more. It's not just a patch. So when I sat down, I actually spent quite a bit of time. I wove an ethos into the patch. Didn't actually exactly know where I was going with it in the sense of designing that it was going to become quite a popular club. But I've always liked the fact that there's an explorers club, New York, London, what have you. And I worked with some really high profile people over the years. One guy in particular, how we used to have very interesting conversations. When I was on the dive team, the search and recovery team, my boss was actually, I won't mention his name, but he was affiliated with Rolex. He is affiliated with the Rolex scholarship program, and he would be one of the main men in Europe for it. So if you wanted to get on the Rolex scholarship program, you had to go through his vetting.
Yes.
I know he was quite tight. But we had fantastic conversations because my interest in watches, and especially Rolex, which I don't have, it's always eluded me. But my love for Rolex, my love for the attachment of a watch and historical events. So me and him would talk for the early hours of the morning. But he gets to go to the Explorer Club because that's where they hand out the Rolexes. The lucky student of that year gets a year's paid. I don't know, people may correct me on the details there, but they get a Rolex and they get to do all
Yeah.
these amazing diving opportunities around the world.
Hey, you're diving and the Rolex to boot.
The Rolex, you want to see what they get, and that's them set for life. They get the Rolex card. So anyway, the Explorers Club is something you have to be an elite to get into. And I always thought in my own heart of hearts, I'm just a regular Joe, fighting my corner, putting food on the table for my wife and my 2 kids. Chances of me ever getting to be in the Explorers Club is very, very slim. And then one day he came in with a letter and he said to me, can you make it to New York next weekend? It was an invitation to the Explorers Club. And he says, Graham, if you've got the dough, I didn't have the dough and I couldn't go, but I still kept the letter. Anyway, so it was that interesting thing about the Explorers Club. It always intrigued me. When I tied in the wild geese, it was from the interview scene, but also the Explorers Club. That night when I sat down, I designed the patch. And what I did was, instead of a drop zone patch, what I did was I combined the green for the earth, the blue for the sea.
Yeah.
Now, the planet Earth becomes your drop zone.
Yes, yes.
So you are not limited to anywhere but planet Earth. This is your drop zone. The whole globe is open to this, right? The geese is the symbol of freedom. You are a free spirit. You run with the seasons. You move around different coastlines. That was the spirit of freedom. The dagger, the commando knife, is the symbol of what you were in the past. You still have it. It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war.
Yes, I love that saying.
That always true to me. And so that's the symbol of now what you wear, but now you are a protector of what's important, which is Mother Earth. Protect what you love. And then obviously the Explorers Club is a throwback to the fact that everyone's an explorer. A few people have asked me about the wild geese. Are you afraid of copyright? No, because the wild geese term actually came from the 1600s when Irish soldiers left Ireland to go and fight in Europe and fought in different wars. That's how old it is, the wild geese. So yeah, the wild geese comes from that. I basically designed that patch. This is open to everyone. Everyone's an explorer. You don't need to have stepped on the moon or climbed Everest with flip-flops on and one arm. This is for everyone. With the ethos of curiosity, protecting what you love, explore, resilience, be more, live more, do more. I went to a friend of mine, Dave, who runs a media company, fantastic guy. And I said to him, explained to him, and he said to me, Graham, that's a fantastic idea.
I agree, great.
He took it to his design team and digitized it. Then I took it to Pagoda Patches. Carl made it into the patch it was. Now, originally, the original patch was fabric, which I love, the full vintagey fabric thing. And so then I start wearing the patch on my backpack or on the sleeve of my coat, and did a bit of work for Nomadic Watches in Belfast. They asked me to test a watch for diving. Now, I've tested quite a few watches over the years. Currently wearing a Vertex, by the way. Fantastic. Big shout out to Dom at Vertex. Fantastic guy.
Nice.
And then obviously my sincere friends, Elliot Brown. I went to Corfu with the Nomadic Watch and did a lot of diving. Fantastic area to dive. So I took the patch. And I took the patch down to 45 meters. But the patch, I could see the patch did not deteriorating, but over a period of the while, soaked to the sun, soaking, wet, dry, sun, starting to shrink. So guys that asked me for patches for their wetsuits, for their dive bags and stuff like that. So I came home after the research and development element of that trip and said to Carl, I said, look, can we come up with an idea that the guy could wear the patch on a wetsuit or on his whatever, any patch? Carl said, let's go with a PVC patch. The durability's there. And since then, I've dived the life out of the patch. It's good. So the patch, as much as I love fabric, these patches are more durable to water.
Yes.
So that's the patch.
It's great quality.
That's the patch that's, that's in current issue.
That's amazing. And if I could pick up on some of the things that you said, and that's what I really like, because I think the design is great and the idea immediately resonated. And I started engaging with your Instagram post. That's how we started chatting. And then you did this shout out to people saying, inviting all explorers to feature. And I saw that. I thought, that's not for me, because I didn't feel that I had enough credibility. My own background is the Dutch National Reserves, weekend warriors. Recent few years, I've taken up this hobby of doing outdoor military themed events, but I certainly didn't think, I wouldn't have put myself forward, but you said it's for everyone, exactly as you've just said. So you put me on the channel and I got positive feedback. That was really cool because I thought he probably doesn't know my background. And the moment I send it, he's going to say, "I'm sorry, mate, it's not for you," but not at all.
Here's the thing that I learned years ago, right? I'm a great facilitator, bringing people together. I've had many people tell me that. I've organized other events, other sort of exploits I've done, beach cleanups. I'm a big conservationist and I'm really involved with respecting our nature and respecting the sea. I live not too far from the sea and I organized a cookout for a Sunday. So we went for a sea kayak in the morning and then we beached our boats and I did a cookout, big barbecue for everyone. And this girl contacted me, right? And she said to me, "Where is that?" I said, "Where do you live?" And she said, "Newton Ards." And I went, "That's about a 5-minute drive from you." She says, "I've lived here all my life and I never knew that was there." And I said, "You're kidding me." And it was then I started to see things about exploring local. So I took her the following week, did a barbecue, and she had a son who was autistic and he absolutely loved it because it gave the kid great peace. I started organizing smaller local walks, in a bit of history and a bit of flora and fauna. And I realized if you explore local, you don't need to climb Everest. You don't need to go to Kathmandu. You can explore your local areas. There's so much to see that you haven't seen before. It gives you more value and more respect for your environment, more respect for where you live. And so then that was the whole concept about everyone's an explorer. If it's a case of you just put a flask and a sandwich in a thing, that you can just see so much and get so much out of it. Do you know what I mean?
It is. I wanted to pick up on something you said earlier about bringing people together. There's a group of about 10 of us. We've all known each other since about 17, 18, 19. I keep in touch. We have a WhatsApp group and not a day goes by that somebody won't post something in the group. We have from political arguments to silly jokes and what have you. I've been living in the UK for 20 years. It's just for work. One job led to another. I married an English woman now. I found what I missed, or what made me happiest in the glory years in the 20s, was absolutely doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the group of friends, we actually do an adventure every 5 years. I put 50 euros aside every month. We went to Africa last year. And every 5 we went to Vietnam. So every 5 years do a big trip. But
that's
even
a
then,
great idea. That's a great idea.
But even then, I often feel that I'm missing something. For a while, I was looking for it in pubs where you just go boozing and you'll meet people and you have that camaraderie. But in the long run, that doesn't work, right? So a few years ago, I did a military-themed event and I thought, this is what I was missing. It's doing something difficult with others, shared hardship. And it could be someone you've met today. It could be someone you've known for multiple years and the friendships develop. If you look at the videos I put on there, it's about people bonding. If you'd asked me 4 years ago, what's the main thing missing? I just missed this camaraderie. I started doing these events. When I did the second one, I was coming down Penny Van and I'd done, I think it was my first fan dance or whatever. And I knew I was going to lose reception once I got in the valley. So I thought I'll quickly call my wife and I felt quite emotional. I said, "You know what? I really need this." And her answer was, "Yes, I know." And it's just a wonderful moment because she gets it. What we do now is it started with once every 6 weeks. I think I've smuggled it down to once every 4 weeks, but I can get out and have a weekend out. It keeps me from other coping mechanisms. I just wanted to say I totally relate to that. And I really relate to that.
No, absolutely. I've been involved with a lot of events. I organized the first underwater marathon back in 2017, where I built a trail on the seabed in Ballyholme Bay. We actually did a 26.5-mile swim dive.
Amazing. And 26 miles, wow.
Yeah, so we brought teams of 2. Each person swam a mile. We raised money for charity. It was a fantastic teamwork building exercise, as diving is all about teamwork. I see that a lot more. I totally get what you're saying. People are more into buying an experience than buying a thing. You know, like as you said, give me 5 years ago, come now, I'd rather buy an experience than buy something. That's a fantastic idea, what you're saying about putting a few quid away each month and then 5-year trip, And I've been approached on the Wild Geese by a couple of groups like Mad Dog Adventures, SOE, Prepared Pathfinder. And if I'm leaving anyone out, I do apologize.
I love all those guys.
There's definitely things in the future for Wild Geeks to organize events and bring people together, connect with people. I think it's crucial. I used to do a lot of running on the road, but my knees, back, and what have you, always suffer. So then I obviously done a few events over the years that sort of led to more trail running. And I love trail running. It's slower, but I come back from the trail elated, on a high. And then I come in the door and the wife says, "Any chance you painting that kitchen?" get into the trees, get into the greenery, get into the woods, get into the sea. It's a total game changer for mood. Once I have that, I'm reset for the week. I'm good. If I get that Sunday morning or Saturday morning and get my long trail run, take my dog, and I do stop and take a snap. I get to the highest peak and I'll stop and I go, that's a sunset or that's a sunrise or that's a color in nature that needs to be shared. And I do take a picture, share the experience, and hopefully someone will go, where's that?
Yeah,
and I go, that's, and then they go, I would like to do that, and then that's the sort of thing. And that is also too is why I felt it was crucial to start Meet the Explorer on the page, because I wanted regular people who do amazing things. No, not Neil Armstrongs, not Edmund Hillary, regular Joes who and then I listened to your story and I thought, yeah, happy days. And I know there's some women on the page and I'm encouraging them to come forward. I know there's some nurses who do amazing things. They do relief work and they go to hurricane zones after the weather's devastated the area and they help rebuild. That's, if someone wasn't aware of you prior to what you're on the Meet the Explorers, then they're aware of you now. And then they understand, here's a guy, you said to yourself, you drank too much. Now he's cut back on the booze and now he's getting after on a Sunday. He still has a 9-to-5 job. He still runs his family, but he's a better guy today than he was yesterday because of what he does in nature. You can't put money on that, I don't think. We all search for different things, but it's just getting out there and doing it and just getting into nature.
It's still quite a young initiative, the Wild Geese. How do you see the 2 to 5 year and beyond timeline in terms of plans? And
it's a fantastic question. I may not be able to answer. Where do I see it going? I think we're at 3,774 people at the moment. 140 people since Friday. Absolutely blown away. I just like helping people. I can bring different things to different people. I like connecting people. I like bringing out the best in people, encouraging, inspiring people. Where it goes, I'm not too sure. I would like to get involved more on the ground and do events, tie in and do collaborations with SOE, with Mad Dog, because they offer some great things. Then just expose that to more people, encourage people to say, as you said, put a couple of quid away each month, save up and buy an experience.
Yeah. It pays itself back when something happens in normal life. And it could be as dramatic as losing a job or something happening to a family member. You're just better able to deal with it because you've earned that confidence. As in, you invest in experience, but it's real self-development.
It takes effort to work at it, and it pays back.
100%. Yeah.
And even the conversations during COVID, my father, because we lost our shop, I lost my job. And it was a case of, I broke everything down into small pieces. My father was saying to me, how are you dealing with this, son? And I said, I'm going to eat the elephant bit by bit here. If I get overwhelmed, I'll get paralysis by analysis and I won't be able to deal with the problem. So I'll go into the process like I was taught in the military, to break the issue down and let's deal with each small incremental issue.
Yeah.
You can be overwhelmed. You can be taking hits on all sides and you just want to put your head down or run away. But take stock of your situation. It's like when I was underwater, I knew I had gas in my tank. I knew if I bolted to the surface, I would probably end up with arterial gas embolism, the bends, whatever. So I sank to the seabed, got myself a stable platform and said, what resources do I have on me? I have a pocket knife, I have a watch, I have a gauge, took the bungee cord out, worked the problem, kept taking breaths, stuff like that. I've been trapped underwater. I was trapped under a car, underwater.
Jesus.
I was pinned underneath a car underwater and I had to take my knife out and dig a hole and dig my way out under the car. I could have freaked out. I've had my mask, I had my helmet partially ripped off because I got hit in the face. Stuff like that. I'm a firm believer in break the problem down.
Yes.
Not getting off topic, recovered a lot of missing persons, people have took their lives. And I've always said, and this is just me now, and I know mental health is a very grey area, but I've always said, if you could just hang on for the next morning, for the sunrise to come up, it changes perspective. Like I've often gone to bed on a problem and I've woke up in the morning and the problem is different.
Yeah, because you're rested.
Your perspective and your mindset is different after a little bit of rest. Even if it's just sitting down, take a piece of paper and write it down. Take a look at the problem in paper. And I've often said that people who took their lives, God, if you had just waited another day, you might have seen a different alternative, a different way of dealing with that. And now you're gone and you're never coming back. And it It always broke my heart. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. And I think doing the events and being in nature, getting dirty, getting wet, getting cold, getting hungry, tired, and facing adversity. But also, while you're facing that adversity, the crucial thing is to be cheerful, is to, no matter what happens, never let them take your sense of humor. Laugh, joke, right? Work it out. Never, ever give up.
No, I couldn't agree more. Even the hike we did the weekend, which was 35, I'd say it was challenging. It's nothing like a proper ultra. But even after that, it was a long day. I felt tick box, done it again. The weekend after next, I'm going to Colchester for Paris 10 Roman Rampage circuit. I'm probably going to finish it, but I still need to prove it. And then it'll be that tick in the box. And I've always got challenges ahead, which means if I go for a run later or tomorrow morning, I've got something planned, it's not boring because I'm training for a challenge. It makes working out and training and running can be boring. But if I tell myself, you're actually going to make your life easier on the day, right? You're training for something. That gets me out of bed. That gets me, I better do it.
Here's what you need to remember. And I think, I've been sick for the last 2 months here. It's given me a lot of perspective on things and things that I've taken for granted, I will no longer take for granted. The thing is, what you said there, you probably will do it. The thing is, you get to do it. You get to do it, right?
Yeah.
So firstly, be grateful for the fact that you get to do it. There's graveyards full of people who would change places with you in a heartbeat. The way I see it now is I'm happy to be here, and I give gratitude every day for that. When you go, oh, Jesus, I don't want to run, I always say, I'll go to the end of the road and see how I feel.
Yeah.
And then I have this old bullhound taught me a trick years ago. When I'm running, you start off with your toes and speak to your toes in your mind and go, right toes, how you feeling? Then go to your heel, then go to your knee, then work your way up. Before you know it, you've got your second breath and you're into your run. It's all mental. It's all mental.
Yeah.
Some days you run like an elephant. Some days you run like a gazelle. It's just the way it goes. You fuel yourself when you fight.
But when I run, I always do a minimum, I'll have something in my mind. I'll do at least this distance.
I totally get what you're saying. If I was going out and I was really in a bad way and I just did a mile, I still did a mile, right? I still did something. But if I had an injury that would set me back for a couple of weeks, because I'm being stupid.
Of course, yeah.
But I also firmly believe I've still got 2 other limbs. So I'll go sit on a bike, or I'll go swim.
Yeah.
I'll go swim, lift weights, or row. One of your Achilles tendons may be tight, but your other leg is all right. So you can go sit on the bike and do 5K in the bike. Go row. Go maybe just do a resistance training session. You're still doing something. And I always say that. It doesn't need to be mega. Just be consistent. The older you get, it's more important that you maintain strength and mobility. Do something. Getting too comfortable, that the couch will kill you. You get cozy. Before you know it, your waistline is increased. It's important to factor in rest and recovery. I think the older you get, we can't train like I'm 55 now. I can't train the way I was when I was in my 20s, but I need to be smart. I want to remain injury-free, no inflammation in the joints. I want longevity. So I need to look at these things, whether it's be nutrition, taking the day off and just resting, and then being able to come back and do what I love.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the watch this talk, and especially coming from a diver. So let's maybe talk a little bit about that. So there's so many fantastic brands.
Yeah.
It's interesting you talked about the Elliot Brown watches. So did you actually wear an analog watch when you go diving?
All the time. I've had digital let me down. There's an old saying in the diving, the chrome won't get you home. You need to know your basics. You need to understand the fundamentals of diving, understand the laws of physics. When you push the boundaries on it, that's when you get into problems.
Yes.
And I've had digital stuff fail on me, and a wristwatch is what brought me home, because I turned around, my gauge shut down. I was pitch black, couldn't see a thing, but I could see my air gauge, the luminous on my watch. I was able to count as I was coming up the side of a cliff. I was able to experience the change in the pressure. I had an idea where I was in the sense of the pressure change, and then the visibility got better. Around the 6 meter point that I suspected I was able to hold my position and using the watch do my decompression.
Cool.
So it was the watch to save my bacon that day. I always dive with a proper mechanical watch. If you want me to tell the story of Elliot Brown, there's 2 videos on YouTube with Elliot Brown. Elliot Brown came about because my wife and I have this small seaweed business called Peninsula Kelp, and we hand harvest seaweed. And this was back in like 5-6 years ago. And a friend of mine, he's an international sea kayaking coach. He was sailing to Greenland and stopped off in Bangor in his yacht and came to visit me. I picked him up, brought him home, brought him back to our house, and my wife made a big meal for us. And we were sitting down talking, just like a conversation we're having now. I was talking about ocean nutrition and harvesting seaweed and understanding the ocean and the conservation of the ocean and protecting the ocean and all the things that really run strong with me. He said to me, "Oh my God, Graham, what an evening I've had with you," right? He said, "I was so inspired by what you said about the ocean." And he pulled up his sleeve and said, "Have you ever heard of Elliot Brown?" And I said, I had heard of them, but I'd never had any experience with them. I said, "Yeah, I know of them, but I've never actually worn one. I don't have one."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm actually an ambassador for Elliot Brown." The next day, unfortunately, my wife's mother died that night in hospital. So I was supposed to take him snorkeling the next day, and I couldn't because obviously she'd passed away. I actually have my own reef. I lease a section of seabread from the Crown Estate.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to take him over and show him where I harvest the seaweed from. He said to me, "Look, I'll just go on because this is a bad time for you guys." And I went, "No problem." He says, "I'll call in and see you on the way back from Greenland." So him and his girlfriend got in their yacht. And then later on that day, he phoned me from the yacht and says, "Graham, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about the sea, your values about nature and the ocean." He said, "I took it upon myself, and I hope you don't mind." He phoned Elliot Brown, and I spoke to the marketing girl named Jem.
Yeah.
He said to her, "You need to have this guy on your team. So stand by for a phone call." So I received, in a couple of days' time, I received a phone call, and Jem came on the phone and she didn't know really what to make of me. She was like, "So what do you do?" And I told her, and she was like, "Okay." And then I thought, I'll never hear from them again because she didn't understand at the start what I was all about. About 2 days later, she phoned me and she says, "Graham, listen to what you said, and we'd love to have you on board as an ambassador." I said, "Thank you so much." And she said to me, "Right, stand by, you get a parcel in the post." And then a watch arrived in the post, and it was the Elliot Brown Halton. And she said to me, "Please don't take care of it. Please abuse it." So it's currently waiting to get a new battery. I must have dived that watch maybe well over 250 times anyway. And it's been a great watch. The loom on it is fantastic.
And for the viewers...
Yeah, go ahead. So
I was going to say, for the viewers who don't know the brand, they are a brand that has been issued by the military for the SBS. I mean, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say. No, I can edit it out, but that's been issued to the British military. Yeah. They have a NATO stock number.
They're quite open about that. About a year later, she contacted me and said, "Would you be interested in taking part in a project?" I went, "Sure, no problem." She said to me, "We're going to send a team over in October and they're going to work with you for 3 or 4 days. Could you help, make a video?" So they came over. That's how we did the Elliot Brown video, which you can find on YouTube, about me and about the sea and about the watch. So that was fantastic. They're a fantastic watch. They do everything you need them to do. There's different levels of different watches. I like my watches to be relatively simple so you can see it. It's very legible. Underwater, the aluminum is crucial that you have a clear face and you can see everything. Yeah. And everything lights up. They definitely tick all the boxes. Fantastic people to work with, and customer service. Just a nice bunch of people. And they're always willing to listen and keen to be involved with different projects.
Any other brands that you want to talk to us about?
Ever since I was a kid, I suppose... Yeah, obviously Jacques Cousteau, watching them with the black and yellow wetsuits with the big wristwatches on there. They carried very little in the sense of technology. They used the wristwatch to manage their dive. So as soon as I could get a watch, I got a watch. And obviously, I think then growing up, and you're going to like this one, was Magnum PI. He wore 2 types of wristwatches. Yeah. One was a Chronosport C-Quartz.
Or what did he have?
No. Chronosport C-Quartz it was. And then later on in the episode, he wore the Rolex Pepsi GMT that his father had given him. Pepsi GMT dial that he wore. I always wanted that. And obviously, we're talking back in the 80s here, so I was like, 10. Obviously, couldn't afford it. But my first I got a diver's watch in Spain, the Mortimer. They're actually worth a fortune now. I bought it for £5. And the next watch then was bought in Wales in 85. And it was a Pulsar. Pulsar. And it had a Pepsi dial on it. Yeah. I paid £65 for it in the jewelers in Wales. I was on holiday with my family. Absolutely amazing. So, again, dived the life out of that watch. And then later on, I was working in a flour mill, and I was earning decent money as a kid. So I was able to buy my first Citizen Aqualand in '87. I have a box full of watches, but I love watches.
Okay.
I love watches that tie into history, historical events.
Yes. CWC?
I
Just
don't
a
actually.
watch company. Do you like them?
I do like them. I don't have one.
Either. I'm looking at them.
There's a few small brands that I want to get my hands on. There's a few pieces I'd like to put to my collection. Obviously, the Rolex at some point is something I'll get my hands on.
Did your diving start doing your service, Graham, or was it something that you picked up?
No, I got my first mask and snorkel back in '75, as soon as I could. And then I learned to officially dive in 1985, and then been diving ever since. Recreational, through the military, and then when I left the military, everyone seemed to be going off to Iraq to be bodyguards. I didn't really want to do that. I figured I was in a good age in my life that I could make a transition into a different career. I wanted something that's going to challenge me and something that I could learn lots of skills from. The diving industry is just an abundance of that. So I went off and did my hard hat ticket, became a commercial diver, and then went into the commercial diving industry.
Not everyone watching will know what hard hat diving entails.
Yeah.
Could you explain a bit there and the sort of work you actually ended up doing? Because it sounds quite adventurous.
Yeah, I went to Scotland to a place called Dunoon, to the Professional Diving Academy, and did my commercial diving ticket, my HSC Part 1. That qualified me to work in the commercial diving industry. It was a 10 or 11-week course. It was fantastic. We were working out of the Holy Loch, old US Navy submarine base from the Cold War. Which is great. If you can train in Scotland, you can train anywhere because the conditions are horrendous.
Yeah.
It's cold, it's dark.
Low visibility, right?
But if you can train in that environment, then everywhere else is gravy and chips. So you're working in black water or close to black water. That is just the way it is. And it really gives you the confidence of going out to the industry. You're working in harbours and marinas full of mud, full of silt, zero visibility, full of like debris, full of obstructions on the seabed, because a lot of people think in them areas that the seabed is a dumping ground. And if the general passerby can't see it, then it's not worried about. But when you're diving and you're coming across cars, trolleys, traffic cones, barbed wire. I've even been inside a skip, didn't even know I was inside the skip. I was searching for a missing person and all of a sudden I was inside this metal box, couldn't see anything, but I could feel I was inside of some sort of solid structure. The skip was upside down. And I swam in on my search pattern, swam into the skip. And it was only when I started to navigate around by feel, then I felt the horn where the chains go on. And then I realized I'm inside the skip. And then I was able to stay calm and take up the slack on my umbilical and work my way out and navigate it. But yeah, stuff like that. And then we do a lot of work on the shipping industry, ship repair, salvage, basically every job that you can think of on land we would do underwater. We're building marinas, hull surveys, prop surveys. I mean, when I went in the industry, it wasn't too bad. Then it got flushed with divers. So
are they? Okay.
You really had to work hard to get your place at the table. I was lucky in the sense that I got a lot of work inshore, and then I ended up picking up the contract doing the underwater search teams and things like that. So I did that for a long time. Then I retired out of that coming towards the end. I felt the management wasn't safe. I felt that the people who were managing us didn't really understand the physics of diving, didn't understand what was involved. At some point, I thought they were going to injure someone.
Yeah.
I had some really close calls near the end, and I just thought this is not worth it anymore. You had a guy standing with a clipboard who hadn't a clue about diving, and I'm saying to him, look, you need to look at these conditions. You need to look at what we're going into here. You may lose someone or severely hurt someone. And he would turn around and say, computer says now. And I was like, this is not good. So 12 years at that, I went back. Obviously, I was doing normal diving, hard hat diving. I went back into engineering, a bit more inspection work. And then, I finished up there about 2 years ago. The wife said to me, is there any chance you're getting a real job and coming home? So, I hung up my fins in the commercial capacity, but I'll always dive.
Still go recreationally.
Where I live, there's lots of shipwrecks, and I love shipwrecks. I also love scallops and lobsters, and I like spearfishing and seafood. There's an abundance where I live. I'll forage on the seabed, forage on the shore. But it's great.
Life from where I'm sitting here in London.
No, I mean, if you ever make it across, I'll gladly take you.
100%.
over the course of the 20-something years I did it, I say every day was different. I did a lot of traveling on it. I enjoyed the real deep work. You just get used to the zero visibility, and I really enjoyed the teamwork. You're working with guys who are very creative in the mindset. Diving is constantly problem solving. You are constantly working out, right, how are we going to do this? And the 5-man team would sit down and we'd pull on ideas. Over the course of the job, you'd see amazing creativity and innovation. When it's broken, how can we fix that? What can we utilize that's in our toolboxes right now to fix that? And you'd see some amazing ideas come up. I've had some jobs when we have to transport A to B, and you look at that and you go, how are we going to do that without a crane? And you figure it out. I always wanted to be an astronaut, but the chances of me being an astronaut was very slim. But being a commercial diver was the next best thing. Let's put it straight. They'll be pulling prying the regulator out of my mouth when they're putting the lid on the box. Do you know what I mean?
You know, I got my PADI in one of these trips. We were in Vietnam, actually, and it was really fun because it was some sort of rogue instructor from Australia, and he basically 3 dives in, he took us cave diving, and when I spoke to more experienced divers, they said, he did fucking what? But yeah, it was great fun. But he was on an island off the coast of Vietnam. Not a lot of oversight. We were there to do a multi-day long open water PADI. It was a great experience. There were probably 3 instructors around us, a group of 10. We got some amazing experiences, which included swimming into caves and out. I later heard that's not something you normally do on your first open water. Yeah. But yeah.
A couple of years ago, when you talk about rogue divers, I've met many over the years. Obviously, when you go diving abroad, you have to prepare yourself for substandard equipment that's well worn and beat. One day, I just jumped off the boat and was down about 15 meters, and the mouthpiece came off the regulator. So I went to the seabed and took a piece of bungee cord that I had on a clip, and your man was looking at me, and I tied it onto the mouthpiece, and there I was on the seabed making this mouthpiece. And I was trying to like a cable tie, trying to cinch it. And I was explaining to him, but it was only, I had the confidence in the commercial diving industry to understand that as long as you're breathing, we can sort the problem out. Do not panic. Think about what you're doing, slow everything down, break the problem down and work the problem.
You're wearing a great cap, and I've seen that they are for sale. Has the first batch sold out yet?
Yeah, they're all gone. I only did a small run, put in an order for more. So hopefully So for people who want to keep an eye on that, you're on Instagram as Wild Geese Explorer Club. That's the best way for them to find you. Yeah, that's the best place for me. Purchasing the patches, your membership. You are now a member of the Wild Geese. And I feel like I've created a movement, and people send me daily pictures of where they've taken the patch. And like I've encouraged them, just get out and explore. Take your kids out, teach them skills. Yeah. Teach them how to be resilient, how to light a fire, how to manage themselves within the woods, within nature, within the environment. Yeah. I spend a lot of time with my children in the woods, in the water, in nature, right? And I taught them leadership skills. At the time, I didn't really see it. Now that they're older, I'm getting the return of my investment. You know, I've got 2 daughters. One's a marine biologist and the other one is in high school, and she's an aspiring RAF pilot. She's learning to fly as we speak. I listen to them talk, and I've seen them take over situations and take the leadership role when needed because of this sort of stuff that I put them through as a younger age. They need to invest. The essence of Wild Geese is just be more, do more, live more, be a better human being. Just get out there and do it. I'm hoping that I've got people on the page, right? One fellow named RJ Casey, who's involved with SpaceX. He was on Meet the Explorers last week. He's an amazing guy, really approachable. He's got multiple business, stuntman. He's a pararescue, U.S. Air Force pararescue, and he's also
in the PJ.
Yeah, he's also involved with astronaut recovery. You know, I'm hoping to bring more interesting people into the fold and get more interesting people to talk to, inspire others. You know, bring it to that ground level. And that's the great thing about Instagram. The amount of people I've approached and the amount of positivity I've got back, they're like, yeah, sign me up, mate. Sign me up. Yeah.
And which brings me on to, you've got some great posts about Magnum PI on your Instagram. It's another thing that we connected on because I always like Magnum PI, and I downloaded a season on Amazon and I watched it with the missus, and she really liked it. So we went right back to season 1, 1980. On weekend mornings, have a bit of a run or whatever. So we sit down, not before sort of 10 a.m. And we have a bit of a leisurely brunch, put an episode on. We made it all the way through all of the seasons. I saw it back when it was on when I was younger, but I saw the whole thing again in recent years. So that was funny to see on your Instagram. What is it that appeals to you about that show?
I was 10 when the first episode came out back in 1980. It ran for 8 years. And I think it was the whole connection with the sea. He lived on the water. The house was on the water.
Yep.
He was an ex-SEAL, naval intelligence, an investigator. He drove a nice car, carried a gun, wore cool wristwatches, smoked a cigar, and he hung out with two guys, right? And if you notice...
TC and Rick.
If you notice about that, and an American guy spelled it out for me, is about, do you notice after they left the service, they still kept their friendship together, but they still pranked each other. And so there's a bit of a message in there, don't take yourself too serious, get out and do things. And it was just one of those things. I obviously watched the show when I was younger and I didn't really understand it till later on. And then later on, it was on sale on Amazon. And I bought the full 8 seasons.
Yeah.
My father laughs at me because he says, "You still watch that show?" And I goes, "You know what, Dad? That's a really feel-good program." And I put it on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just lighthearted entertainment, but this connection with the sea, connection with the friends, connection with the military diving, all that kind of thing. As I said, one guy actually made a comment on my page today. He goes, "That house was demolished there a couple of years ago." And I said, that was many a young man's dream to own a house like that backed up.
I've seen it since, because me and the missus, they had our honeymoon in Hawaii and we made sure to go past it. Actually, Barack Obama owns the plot. Yeah, you can look that up. He bought it, and I don't know whether it was torn down. And to be fair, he was born there, so Barack Obama's from Hawaii. He's obviously a wealthy man now. He bought that plot, and he put a nice place. It's a lovely place, as you can see in the show. And you know what? No, but we were big fans of the program. We went to Hawaii on our honeymoon, so it's not that long ago. It's only sort of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've already well into Magnum, and we got into a cab straight from the airport. And she asked the female taxi driver, "What got you to Hawaii?" And we said, "Probably Magnum." And she was old enough to remember. She goes, "Oh, I remember that was being filmed." And apparently Tom Selleck had owned a penthouse. He didn't obviously actually live in that, obviously not in that house. Yeah. But when they were shooting, and it was a few months of the year for the season, he had a lovely penthouse overlooking Honolulu, and he was a proper boy. You said something there which is exactly what me and the missus have said. If you ask me, what I like most about it is it doesn't take itself too seriously. Exactly. And I've never watched an episode of the reboot because I'm afraid it's going to ruin it for me.
Crap.
I think a lot of the shows now, like NCIS or whatever, it takes itself very seriously. And I quite like that Magnum doesn't.
Come on. Yeah, well, I got to get you dry, man. TC, you're killing me.
Come on, Magnum!
Who's he?
Oh, this is a private investigator.
A cop?
I'm making a citizen's arrest.
And it's like where they've got the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it's literally filmed on the same day. Rick wouldn't even get a haircut. Just got Rick with the same hair, with a uniform on, and now they're early 20s and they're back in Vietnam.
Yeah.
TC has got a little pot belly and he's flying the Huey. It's great fun because it's saying, listen, we all know it's not real.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about that time, where I agree with people who say Sean Connery is the best Bond. I get it. But we all know James Bond is ultimately not real, and that's not what spycraft is like. So what I liked about Roger Moore, he didn't take himself too seriously. Right? He was romping around with Grace Jones in his late 50s, I think. And it just didn't take itself too seriously. And that's actually what I probably like most about Magnum as well. Just the tongue-in-cheek. You have a laugh. No one's pretending to be a tough guy, and probably those guys could handle themselves in a bar if it got out of hand. Those actors, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've always enjoyed it. And then obviously there's a little bit of diversity in the subjects. It was just a whole lifestyle thing. When I grew up near the coast, and I always wanted a house back onto the water. Magnum was the catalyst for that.
Of course.
If you look back into that era, the 80s, all those crime TV shows, they do tie into each other. There is some other actors that do swing in and out. I would highly recommend, this is just me, is not watch the new Magnum thing.
And I haven't,
No, it did switch it on, pure curiosity. I have to say it was tragic. I just turned it off after about 20 minutes. My wife was laughing. I said, I ain't watching that. It's pure shite. Don't watch it. They cancelled it after, I think, the second season. It just got binned because it was a complete bullshit. Good times, though, I have to say.
What advice would you have for somebody watching who's a bit hesitant to start their own outdoor adventures, or maybe used to be active but is trying to get back into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say don't be frightened. There's so much information online right now if you're failing to be resourceful, right? There's so many people out there in the same boat as you. There's so many good courses online. Go and do a bushcraft course. Learn how to light a fire in the woods. Learn how to pitch tent, put a basket up. Do not be frightened. Outdoor education is probably one of the most enjoyable educations you'll ever get. You'll be around like-minded people, all the people in the same boat. You soon figure out the Rambos who turn up and they can do this, that, and starts raining, then they just fall apart. Don't be worried about that type of people. Just go along, take the first step and pick up the phone, book a course. Need to get out into nature, connect with people, and then it'll take off. And before you'll be going to Chamonix in a year's time to do a route around Mont Blanc or something like that. You just got to put yourself forward. Orienteering is a fantastic sport. It teaches you map skills, confidence, fitness, and then you're connecting with other people. And it's usually, you'll find that just normal people just get out on Sunday morning, and I found with doing those things, I'm less likely to have a beer on a Saturday night because I want to get up with a fresh head on a Sunday morning. Yeah. I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want to let myself down. So the older I've got, the less I drink, the less I do that kind of thing, because Sunday morning, it's game time, or Saturday evening, or Saturday morning, it's game time. I want to get the most out of my weekends, the most out of my life. If there's anyone on the page in the Wild Geese who would like to connect, this is what I plan to do at some point. Make a way that people can connect. Like I had a guy in Alabama can ask me, could he meet other people in Alabama? Do you know what I mean? So I have to figure out some way.
Interesting. Like the best platform is,
Yeah, like say you live in London and you're a member of the Wild Geese. You can connect with someone that in the club that's 2 miles away, and you can organize your own walk. Do you know that kind of way? I got a message from a guy yesterday. I can't mention his name, but he's on a secret location, on a secret job, and he's in the jungle, right? And he's a member of the Wild Geese Club. And this guy comes walking into the jungle camp, and he's a member of the Wild Geese Club. What's the chances of that? One's a parrot, one's a Marine. And then he sent me a picture. He goes, do you know this guy? And I goes, I know that guy very well because we worked together for a long time, and he's a fantastic guy. He goes, yeah, he's a paratrooper, and he's trying to eat all our food. But also, too, is last Sunday, this just goes to show you the power of this page. I was pulling down my driveway, and I was sitting in my van, my wife, and the phone rang. And I didn't recognize the number. And a guy contacted me. He said to me, can you help me? He goes, I live in South Carolina. He says, the federal government is not helping us here. Can you get me a phone number for a pilot? I know a pilot who's on the page. So I contacted this guy, and he said to me, I'll get you a pilot. I was able to get that number, right? Send the other guy the number because they had the helicopters. They just hadn't got a pilot because the federal government were not helping the people after the hurricane. About 10 minutes later, at the end of this call, I get another call from a guy looking for boats. And he says to me, Graham, I'm on your page. Love what you're doing on the Wild Geese Explorer. So can you help me? And I went, I can. I was able to contact another guy on the page, and we organized boats. That's the power of that page. That was literally
amazing.
That was in my driveway on a Sunday afternoon, and my wife looked at me as like I was from a different planet. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how powerful these connections are, bringing these people together, sharing a common interest, and then being able to help each other. Do you know what I mean?
And I saw the other day, did I see Brian Wood and Jason Fox and Aldo Kane with your flag? Was that?
Yeah.
That was quite impressive.
That's quite impressive. That's my good friend, Carl, Pagoda Patches, top guy. He came to me and he said, look, SSAFE is doing, the Armed Forces charity. He says, they're doing a thing here in Lapland. He said, would you be okay? I says, 100%. He says, I'm doing some printing for the guys. He says, what we'll do is we'll get a flag made up. So they took the flag up. Now, one of the guys that's on the page, Carl, he's the guy that got burnt in Iraq in 2005.
I see.
He's one of the guys that's on the page. He's a club member. He has his patch, and I tried to support him in the sense of encouraging everyone, make a donation or, follow.
Yeah.
And I've got another guy down in Antarctica who's took the patch down to Antarctica. The Falkland Islands, the Cockleshell Hero guys, they've done Cockleshell 22. They're currently in Norway doing the Heroes of Telemark, sort of a reenactment kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen some.
But they also took the patch down to the Falkland Islands and reenacted the Pebble Island raid from the Falklands conflict. Yeah. So, yeah, fantastic. These guys are smashing it. I decided to do a little giveaway this month the person with the best picture of the patch and whatever they do, whatever they love doing, send me a picture. And then we'll put all the pictures into a hat, so to speak, pick one, and they get a nice little giveaway. I've got a nice little knife that I'm going to give away each month. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
And I'm really pleased that you've been prepared to tell your story today. The man behind the Wild Geese Explorers Club. For those people watching that are not aware, look it up. I'll put a link in the description, even if people just go onto Instagram and look up for Wild Geese Explorers. You know, I'm 99% sure they'll land on your page, because I don't think there's another page that's got quite as much engagement.
Yeah.
So, Graham, thanks a lot for that.
No problem.
I'll definitely take you up on your offer to go and have an adventure in Northern Ireland where you are. And I look forward to staying in touch and taking my patch on all sorts of cool adventures. So I look forward to speaking next time, mate.
Yes, I look forward to meeting you. It's been very engaging, really good to talk to you and give my little bit of a story to it. I'm contactable on Instagram anytime. I'm very open to talk to people and help people as much as I can. The page, I hope, will grow and we can just do more for people, connect more people and keep people laughing and enjoying the content. And again, bring on more interesting people for Meet the Explorers, more content for that.
Thanks very much, Graham. And to the viewers, as always,
see you in the hills. Take it easy, mate.